Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch.
Look at my rock.
I just saw it. You writing compassion feels like that's funny when I know you've been lying to me for so long. Like, you, your ex, Callum, and you lied to me about that. And then you brought the guy to my face, and you both stood there in the same room with me, knowing that you'd had sex, lying to me.
All right, I'm guessing that some of you, maybe most of you, know the story about Rob and Sophie. They're talking about the past. I have no idea. I will say that of the couples on this show, on the surface anyway, they seem to have some of the highest differentiation levels. Not that that means that they don't have issues or that they don't treat people poorly, but the way that they tend to talk and react, there is more thoughtfulness and more, I don't know, maybe that's ridiculous. Maybe you're laughing at me right now like, oh boy, but that's just my observation so far. It also could be that they just don't really like each other that much anymore and they're not triggered. But anyway, so they're doing an exercise. It's day 2, and they're out in the desert and they're writing what they would like or what they want to focus on their rock. And then I think they're going to carry their rock, and then there's going to be like hiking and stuff. And the therapist said that the goal is to understand that they're lugging around something unnecessarily. And that's a very CBT way of looking at things. You know, just so you know, CBT has its strengths and its weaknesses, as all CBT people should actually recognize, and good CBT people will. In that the strength is that it can be considered practical, and it sometimes is, in that it doesn't really get into the weeds of history or of childhood or of your traumas or your issues or something. It can be briefer and quicker, I suppose. It is fairly straightforward. It's often not very confusing. It really depends on the therapist and how they implement these ideas. There's a lot of variance there, but that's the plus side. It has a fair amount of evidence for its effectiveness, but there's a whole thing I could go into that's, well understood and it's the consensus among researchers of therapy that CBT just lends itself to the efficacy research a lot better because it can be manualized, it's short term, but anyway. So, but it definitely does work. I mean, cognitive therapy I use all the time, behavioral therapy I use all the time. So, but CBT is it's kind of its own brand of cognitive and behavioral therapy. I mean, just so you know, and sometimes I'll say this, that traditionally cognitive therapists hated behavioral therapists and vice versa. There's famous huge fights between the proponents of these two schools of thought in the past, like 50, 60 years ago. They absolutely hated each other. I mean, I'm sort of exaggerating, but they fought a lot and they would tear down each other's ideas in certain circles, in the main circles. And so the very idea that you'd have a cognitive behavioral therapist is it needs to understand that these aren't necessarily always compatible ideas. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. I mean, maybe you don't know this, but in my field, there's been an ever-increasing movement of CBT that is displacing everything else. CBT is great, but when it is being hostile towards other types of therapy that are also evidence-based and also do work, it depends on what you're applying it to, it can change the landscape of therapy such that clients aren't being treated well. What I do is I have an integrative approach that incorporates as many of the main schools of therapy as possible. It's hard to do because you have to dedicate a lot of time and effort to learning all these different theories forwards and backwards so you can properly integrate them and apply them, tailor them to the client. But as a professor, I had that luxury. I got paid to know things to teach it. And so I was able to do that. The average therapist does not have that kind of time. Anyway, so and I've been a paid podcaster for the past 7-8 years, which or maybe 10 years, and that also gives me the ability to do deep dives and learn stuff, Anyway, so my point is that they are writing things down on so the rocks in the backpack and realizing metaphorically in the physical exercise that they're carrying around something and letting it go is the answer. It definitely has its wisdom, but there's the weakness to CBT is that it either de-emphasizes or just flat out denies that it's not as simple as that. If you have relational trauma, like take someone like Natalie or someone like Jasmine, or who else are we looking at here? Florian, something's going on with Florian, but we've never really seen. But at the very least, Natalie, I've seen her through many seasons and can fairly confidently hypothesize that she has relational traumas that make her sensitive to indicators of abandonment and betrayal. Right off the bat, when Mike went to Ukraine, to Kiev, and they were staying with Natalie and her mom, and there was like this really brief conversation. The mom was asking if Mike and Natalie were going to have kids, and Mike was like, "Yeah, definitely." And Mike was totally in love with Natalie and all in, and they hadn't really had any fights yet. And because Mike didn't say like, "I want to get pregnant now," it triggered Natalie, even though Natalie didn't want to get pregnant right then. But because there was some way of interpreting what he was saying as a betrayal and abandonment, she interpreted it that way and had a complete meltdown. And I don't use that word lightly. She was curled up in bed crying in a fetal position, and she didn't want to see Mike, all because of that. That was it. They hadn't fought, so that indicates something. Now, that could be all edited funny. It could be shenanigans. Who knows? But I'm just saying what I saw. And for Natalie to have a rock that, indicates something along those lines, like, hurt from the past or expectations or of I want a family or whatever it is that she writes on the rock, and to let it go from this exercise, or even just in a therapeutic intervention, even over time, would not work. Take it from me. Would that it was so simple. For all of us, wouldn't it be nice if we could just say, I don't want to feel that anymore, or I don't want that neurological developmental trauma in my brain. I would just like to rewire all my neurons.
He thinks we're exes. We're not really even exes, right? It's barely anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go as far as exes. Like, we were kids, like we messed around.
Okay, so they're flashing back, and it seems like this is what he's referring to, that, what was it again? This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp, and if you sign up, please use the link below because that really helps us out. So October 10th is World Mental Health Day, and this year, BetterHelp wants us to recognize how therapists around the world are truly making the world a better place, if I don't say so myself. And, I don't know where I'd be without the therapists that I've been to over the years, from the therapist that I went to in graduate school who challenged me, had the courage to challenge me on things that I definitely needed to be challenged on, to the therapist I've had more recently who supported me through some very difficult times. Yeah, finding the right therapist can make all the difference in the world. And for over 12 years, BetterHelp has been fine-tuning their process of matching people with the right therapist. So this World Mental Health Day, we're celebrating the therapists who have helped millions of people take a step forward. If you're ready to find the right therapist for you, BetterHelp can help you start that journey. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Kirk. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Kirk.
You writing compassion feels like that's funny when I know you've been lying to me for so long. Like, you, your ex, Callum, and you lied to me about that. And then you brought the guy to my face, and you both stood there in the same room with me, knowing that you'd had sex, lying to me together.
So it sounds like what he's saying is that she cheated on Rob with her ex and lied and flaunted him in front of him or something. But it also could be that when Rob and Sophie weren't together, she got back together with her ex, and she just didn't tell Rob about it, even though it wasn't technically, I don't know.
So there is an attraction. You guys did like each other at some point. Call it what you want.
If you knew what it was like, and I'm sure you've got it with friends where you know, kissed a couple of times when you were kids.
Yeah. I appreciate your input. I'm gonna finish talking to her.
Okay, well, so I can't tell what happened there. Who knows what this guy's thing is, but it looked like a common scenario where the other guy is trying to tell Rob, hey, there's no threat here. Yeah, we got together in the past, but we are just friends now. So, you know, please don't worry about me and her. And, you know, it was just a fling in the past, and we weren't even dating. It was just a very casual thing. And so there's no threat here. So kind of looked that way, and it looked like, I don't know, we just saw a snippet.
You lied to me.
I'm not talking about a situation that happened when I was 14. I'm not. I'm sorry.
Exactly. But you lied to me, though. You lied to me.
Okay, so she's not refuting that she lied, but maybe she didn't, which isn't okay. And then she's saying it was when I was 14. So she's like, what are you talking about? Now, he was saying, I don't know. I don't know if it really matters. I'm trying to divine some truth or some narrative from these bits and pieces.
I got confirmation, clear as day, text messages in Sophie's phone that her and Callum, the guy that she brought all the way from England to meet me, swore that they were just friends, that they'd had sex before. I just found out that...
So it does sound like what I was thinking, that she was saying that this guy is a friend, and it's got to be shenanigans, right? Like, why would this guy, during the show and its filming, why would he come to the States to see the two of them, and why would he be on the show? So it's, you know, but anyway, so it sounds like Sophie was saying, no, it's just a friend. We never got together. And then later on, he discovers texts indicating that they had gotten together in the past, but it was long before Sophie and Rob were together, and it was just a thing on the side. It wouldn't matter anyway, even if it wasn't a thing on the side, because it was before they met. So it sounds like maybe a common scenario, which I don't recommend, that people are like, look, there's no threat there. But yeah, I mean, I did get together with him a long time ago, but I'm not going to tell my husband about it because it'll freak him out. He's jealous. It's not a winning solution usually. The winning solution might be hard, but it has to do with reassurance and helping him or getting him to go to therapy so that he can handle the truth, which is that you've had sex before with other people and that you're still friends with some of them. You know what I mean? Because from the looks of it, there was no threat there, but he felt there was a threat there. But it feels like a threat because if she was lying about it, and that, you know, then it is kind of a threat, then you wonder, well, what else are you lying about? Now, I want to say as a caveat that in all likelihood, I have no clue what actually happened, and some of you are screaming or commenting and saying, no, you don't get it. It doesn't really matter. And maybe I just should stay out of speculation, and with this couple in particular, because it's the one couple that I have no knowledge of. So don't worry about me being completely off base with this. Maybe it'll come out over time. So maybe I should just stop talking about them until I know.
It's about you, and you've been lying to me this whole time.
That's what you want to think.
All right, well, I want to remind everyone that if you are a patron or a YouTube member, a portion of your pledge every month goes towards charities that we support at Psychology in Seattle, and I feel like people might like to know that. And I'm going to list off the charities that we tend to give to. There are some charities that we give to every month and others that we give to in sort of bulk amounts, but one is the Pet Finder Foundation, which helps rescue animals. And I'm looking at my website right now, and it's all messed up. It says that the anyway, I will change that on the website. We also give to Plymouth Housing Group, which is a Pacific Northwest charity to help with housing for people and also transition them back to self-sufficiency. Doctors Without Borders. Back to Pet Finder. I've gotten a lot of my pets through the Pet Finder Foundation. It's a lot of volunteers and a lot of good people and a lot of saving of animals. Prevent Child Abuse America, National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI, Environmental Defense Fund, or EDF, Camp 10 Trees, which is a camp that provides a safe place for queer youth here in the Pacific Northwest area, the Trevor Project, which helps to prevent suicide among queer youth, Special Olympics, Give Big, which is an annual giving campaign that you might know of, Den Show, which is a Seattle organization that preserves stories of Japanese American internment or imprisonment during World War II. Animal Aid and Rescue Fund, or ARF. Animals Lebanon, which is another animal or a pet organization that I have received cats from. They are an organization in Beirut, Lebanon that rescues cats and dogs and other animals from everywhere. My cats were picked up on the street. They were strays. Also, Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. And we also occasionally give to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is increasingly becoming one of the only truthful, non-biased sources on the internet. It certainly has bias sometimes, and it certainly has its problems. But when you think about just the overall din of bias and misinformation on the internet, I mean, Wikipedia, it needs our help. So I absolutely give to that. We've also given a lot of money to in scholarships and grants to students in psychology and also artists. I need to change the website. And take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.